green light. We're not usually live on a Monday, but here we are. Here we are live on a Monday because we've obviously had some absolutely massive news drop that Des Hasler will no longer be coach of the Gold Coast Titans from 2026 onwards. He will be finishing up at the Titans by the end of this year. As he comes at BKRsport, we've got to go through it all. We've got to go through it all. We're here again. Obviously, we did something with the podcast a couple of years ago when Des Hasler actually was brought in over the top of Justin Holbrook back around the three-quarter mark of the season a couple of years back, and unfortunately just hasn't been going to plan. It just has not gone to plan, and the Titans are looking to make major changes, which I have been a massive advocate for, whether it be about Des or whether it be about the organisation or whether it be about players. Regardless, at the end of the day, we need to see changes here at this Gold Coast Titans team. I think it's really just simple, right? We need to see changes because at the end of the day, the Gold Coast Titans under this organisation, 2020, they did just miss out on the 8. In 2021, they made the 8 with a losing record and a losing season, losing points differential. But then since then, it's been fourth last, and then now they're currently in last with 2 games to go. And although, there is still a chance that they could avoid the spoon if they can just get one win out of their final 2 games, obviously one against the Dolphins this week, and then next week they'll be taking on the West Tigers. So 2 winnable games, but this Titans team, there's no real winnable games at the moment because they have been struggling so badly, but they need to win one of those 2 games, and then the Knights to lose to both the Sharks and also in their final game against the Parramatta Eels. So it's not a guarantee just yet in regards to the spoon, but the point of the matter is the overall thought process here is that change needs to be made. Change just simply needs to be made, and the Titans have decided that they're actually putting Scotty Sattler as the director of football, which is a huge inclusion there as well, and also, as you guys know, have let Des Hasler go, which is really hard to kind of cope with in a lot of ways because there is a lot of positive that you're going to see from the fact that Des goes, but it's also a brand new beginning again because when Justin Holbrook was sacked back in the day, people at the time were very toing and froing. Majority were against Justin Holbrook for his losing record, which I think was about 37% with the Gold Coast Titans. He wasn't even able to get to the 50%. And I think Des is around a similar mark, to be completely honest with you. But at the time, we were very excited about what Des Hasler could bring. We were very excited that Des, proven premiership winner. I do think that, even though at the Bulldogs, they did kind of go down a bad path towards the back end of his tenure there, that was organisationally and also Des there in the back end of contracts, but he still got them to a grand final in 2012 and still got them to a grand final in 2014. And we know about the history with Manly and winning premierships there, and realistically as well, the only reason he was kind of sacked from Manly, because Manly fans did actually want him to stay, and they probably, would have preferred him definitely over Anthony Seibold, but the only reason that he kind of left Manly was ultimately because of the inclusive saga that happened to the club, where he obviously wasn't exactly a big advocate for the fact that the club just shoved down the throats of the players and the fans, especially with a lot of the boys being very religious at Manly. They didn't agree with the LGBT thing, right, where they decided to put the inclusive jerseys and the rainbow and whatnot. And then ultimately the Pens and Manly said, no, okay, you're gone. And the Titans did eventually snap him up. Now, that's kind of the only reason he left there. So that's why when he came to the Titans, it was very exciting because the Titans had never had a proven premiership winning coach. They had John Cartwright at the beginning, and they've also had Neil Henry, it was quite unfair because the only reason that Neil Henry was actually let go was because of the Jared Hayne saga, and the club kind of went with Jared Hayne, and it's like, well, Jared Hayne left anyway, and he didn't really have a great tenure there, but Neil Henry was probably getting the best out of the Titans throughout the history, at least post John Cartwright, but Neil Henry was there. You've had Garth Brennan. You've also had Justin Holbrook. You've had Desi Hasler now, and look, it just hasn't gone to plan, mate. It hasn't gone to plan again, and that's why I have a little bit of a reserved nature about getting so excited about Josh Hannay, because I do get excited about him. I think there is a lot of real significant positives that can come from Josh Hannay here. I think there really is. At the end of the day, he does work alongside the Queensland team. There's a lot of Queensland players in this Titans lineup. AJ Brimson's been there. Tino's obviously there. Mwaki Fodawaker. I do think Dave is gone, but then again, we don't know with this. Maybe Dave does stay. He is contracted until 2026, as we did hear from Des Hasler the other day in the press conference. Maybe he does stay, and maybe he does get a bit more going now with a guy he does know and respect in Josh Hannay. You've also got Bowie Firma there. You've got Phil Sami, who has been a part of the Queensland lineup back in 2020. Not that I think that Phil Sami stays, and I do think that a lot of what this Titans team is right now is going to be changed quite significantly over the coming years and over the next 6 months, especially as well, with this new inclusion of Josh Hannay. But I'm really excited for the fact that he can bring a lot of positives in regards to that. But it's not even about him that I just worry a bit. It's not about Josh Hannay. It's about how we felt before, how we felt when Des was signed, it didn't happen. How we felt when all these other people were signed, and it just didn't happen. So there is always going to be that reserved happiness and that reserved positivity, but at the end of the day, this is a positive. It's showing a direction to Tino, because I know a lot of the question right now is surrounding, and I get this on my streams all the time for the live streams of the games, I always get, is Tino staying? I've had like 10 messages already this morning, 10, 15 messages asking me, is Tino going to be staying now? And it's like, I've said the same thing the whole way through. I've always maintained the exact same thing. If the club can give him a direction, which the club needs to give everyone a direction right now. If the club can give Tino a direction, if the club can give the fans a direction, if the club can give the players a direction, just anybody a direction, themselves a direction, then Tino will stay. Because Tino does love the Gold Coast. He's now got a fiance. He is getting married to, he's got family on the Gold Coast. And I know from my personal conversations with him that he loves his club. He loves this community, and he does want to be here, right? It's as simple as that. I don't think it's about the money for him, but even so, the contract that he has at the Titans does have upgrades in it. He does have the ability to make more and more money within the club. And then some people out there are going to be like, well, in Titans fans, I do see it online, where they're a bit hesitant about that. And they're like, well, he's taking up a lot of money for a front row forward. He's taking a lot of money up for his position. And whilst I get that, at the end of the day, the fact is that I know Tino loves his club. I know that he wants to stay here. He just needs a direction. And I don't blame him. If the club didn't give him a direction and the club doesn't provide a direction to anybody, I wouldn't have blamed him for wanting out, because you need to see the future. You need to see progress. We had a promise here from the Gold Coast Titans organisation, which at the time was a positive. It gave the fans belief. I don't think that it necessarily related to the fans as much, because the wording of it and the promise was a bit too far-fetched for how the fans do, relate to the Gold Coast Titans. But they promised 2 premierships in the men's and 2 premierships in the women's by 2030. They also promised a Titans fan on every single seat by 2030. Now, we are halfway through that. So there is still time for that to happen. I highly doubt it, right? But the fact is that we are halfway through that. That does need to be mentioned. Now, in 2020, as I said, they came 9th position. They probably would have made the 8 if it was a full 26-game season. They were coming home very strongly. It's just they unfortunately missed out by, I think, 1 win, and they were 6 games short because of COVID. Right, so they were in 9th position. Then in 2021, yes, it was a losing season. They had to rely on the Raiders to lose, the Sharks to lose, and then also to get 11 points, more than 11-point win against the Warriors, which they did. They won 44-0, and they went into the first week and then lost to the Roosters, right? And we all know about the Patrick Herbert situation. But the point of the matter is that they got to the final. So that was showing progress. That was showing positivity there. But then in 2022, they came 4th last. In 2023, they came 4th last. In 2024, they came 4th last. And now in 2025, they are in the spoon. They are in last position. So there's no progress. There's no direction there. So that's why the fans are completely out of touch right now. And I always said, I don't believe you should have promised 2 premierships in the men's. Sure, you can promise 2 premierships in the women's, because it's a very different situation where the fans are attached to the team, but not as long-term attached as you have got with the men's whatnot. So 2 premierships, especially in a smaller competition. We did make a grand final a couple of years ago for the Titans women's team in 2023. Did lose to the Newcastle Knights in the end. But at the end of the day, I'm not too upset with the 2 premierships promised for the women's. But for the men's, my biggest frustration part of it, right? And I'll get to the chat soon. But my biggest frustration about the promise of 2 premierships in the men's by 2030 was that the fans have seen 1 finals win in the entire history of the Gold Coast Titans, which came back in 2010 against the New Zealand Warriors, right? 2010, that's 15 years ago. A whopping 15 years ago was the 1 individual finals game win the Titans had. And they actually missed the second week of the finals because they got the week off, because they finished 4th that year, and then ended up playing the Roosters in the preliminary final, losing, I think it was like 26-12 up there at Suncorp. Right, so the fans have only seen that 1 individual finals win. They've seen 2 lackluster finals performances in 2016 and 2021. That no, the fans don't need to be grateful for the organisation who has said that. The fans don't need to be grateful for that because it's not really a positive. It really isn't. Right? We need to be setting a bit better expectations than just being grateful for losing in the first week of the finals, twice in 15 years. Right? They needed to say, be there for the moment. Be there when the Titans win their first competition. Come together as the community and be there when the moment happens. 2 premierships is two premierships in this competition is ridiculous. The Panthers have done an incredible thing. They have done absolutely incredible to win 4 premierships in a row. They've been in 5 grand finals in a row. That's one team. That is one individual team. The Sydney Roosters have a long-standing history of success. Yes, they won in 2017 and 2018. Yes, the Melbourne Storm, they've never gone back-to-back, mind you, but they're also a long-standing history of success. The point of the matter is that it's just overachieving. It's overachieving and not understanding the fan base of just the necessity of just the one, of just to be there in the moment. And whether that can be, resilience rather than relentless, which is what they love to speak about, but whether that's resilience or relentless, whatever, the point of the matter is that is your fan base. That is the Gold Coast Titans. That is the fan base where they just want to see this team compete at a high level, whether they're not even necessarily so desperate for a premiership. They really aren't. This is the funny thing about the Titans, and this is because they've been beaten, the fans have been beaten into for so long and whacked for 6 for so long. They're not even necessarily just really looking for that premiership. They're just looking to be in the finals and to be competitive. Look at how the Tigers fans are right now. The Tigers fans are cheering and getting crazy and getting real passionate at Leichhardt Oval yesterday against the Cowboys. Yes, sure, they lost, but the atmosphere was incredible. The atmosphere is incredible, and they're in 11th position. They've been in the last 3 years in a row. All right, they're happy to be there. They're happy to just be there, and they're not even really there. They weren't even really there yesterday because even with a win, it was still extremely unlikely they were going to be in the 8. But the point is that the fans couldn't see that vision. The fans could see a vision of maybe 1 premiership by 2030, or a 10 World Cup of finals appearances for one. But I understand from an organisational perspective why you need to aim high and aim, above expectations. But it's just not this fan base, and it's not what this club is. And that was my biggest problem with that, because I think they needed to really assert that be there for the moment, be there as a community, and be there for that moment we do win the grand final, right? 1 premiership by 2030. I think that would have been fine if they didn't get it, but they still showed a lot of promise and a lot of, positive future and a lot of direction. I think everyone would have still been happy. I think everyone would have still been okay, because there are a lot of teams out there that have not won a premiership and are still, pretty happy as a fan base overall. The Brisbane Broncos haven't won since 2006. The Canberra Raiders haven't won since 1995. They're having a great year this year. They were in the grand final in 2019. But they're always chirping. They're always getting around it. The New Zealand Warriors have never won. They have never won in their history. And they came in 1995 as well. The Cowboys took all the way until 2015 to get their first premiership. There are a lot of teams out there that don't win a premiership in a long time, right? And it's still sustainable as a fan base. A fan base still feels connected to the club and connected to the organisation and connected to the direction. But the fan base and the club is at a complete crossroads right now, where everyone here is just like, well, that's not really kind of how we feel. Sure, we would love to be there. Sure, that would be, and that's your responsibility. Sure, we would love to be in a situation like this, but unfortunately we're not. We just need to see some form of progress. And the organisation is like, well, we're going to achieve this, so just back us in and we'll promise to deliver. Well, your promise to deliver has actually gone downwards. And that's the biggest issue. If you were just showing some progress over the years, there wouldn't be this absolute disconnect between the fan base and the club. Right, so to go back to Des Hasler and Josh Hannay, I'm excited about what Josh Hannay can bring to this club. It is a new future. We were at this stage, and we did think the exact same thing when Des Hasler was signed. Josh Hannay has coached the Cronulla Sharks as an interim coach before, in 2021, I think it was. I think it was just after they'd lost to the Roosters or the Bulldogs or something, or it might have been just after the Roosters game. I got it here. I think they lost 26-18 to the Roosters when John Morris was the coach, and then Josh Hannay came in, and I think he had like an 8-11 record. I've got this on his Wikipedia. That's already got him as Titans coach for next year. 2021, he coached 19 games, had 8 wins, 11 losses for a 42% win percentage, right? He was also the coach as the Cowboys for 9 games, 2 wins and 8 losses, right, in 2020. But the point of the matter is that ultimately that's an interim coach because that's 1 year each, 1 year at the Cowboys and then 1 year at the Sharks. So now he's actually going to be the official head coach for the Gold Coast Titans. And it is exciting because he does have a good rapport with players in our team. And it is a fresh start. I am also glad because there is probably going to be people talking about the Walker brothers. The Walker brothers could be a facade. Probably is a facade. It probably is. It probably is a bad thing. They haven't coached in a long time. They did win one with the Ipswich Jets, and then everyone kind of found them out. Yes, they have ties, obviously, with Sam Walker, but the point of the matter is that I don't think the Walker brothers are actually... I don't think they're right for this club because it's just too much of a risk for a club that can't really take dramatic risks right now. They have to take a risk for sure, but nothing of significant note. It can't be of something where you are literally giving a lifeline to coaches who have, one, never coached at the NRL level before, did host Plus Cup, but haven't coached at the big time level before. And it's just, it could go so far even further wrong. It could go so far even further wrong with the Walker brothers. Hannay is experienced within the game. He played the game, and he's been in Queensland. He's been coaching a part of the Queensland lineup for a long time. He did play for Queensland as well. And again, he's had a couple of tenures as assistant coach at other clubs and also a brief stint as coach. So it's exciting. I just need to be a little bit reserved because we have been here before. But with that being said, I want to get into the chat. I want to see what you guys have to say here. Obviously, it's been a big day, and I've seen a lot of you guys messaging me on Instagram and whatnot, and I just said, just come here because we'll have a chat about it here. But obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here. Obviously, we're live all the time for every game, but let's get into this one. Socceroo says the right move tick fix all of our problems. Wrong. Yes, I agree. It definitely does not fix all of the problems, but it's a good start, especially with Scott Sattler as well. I'm pretty certain Scott Sattler. Let me just make sure here. It was director of football, wasn't it? Let's go to Google. Scott Sattler. And yeah, SEN farewell Scott Sattler as he takes on the new role. Titans confirmed return of Panthers Premiership Heroes. NRL club makes sweeping. I just want to make sure this is director of football. Scott Sattler has been confirmed as the Gold Coast Titans' new director of football as the club makes sweeping changes. The Titans announced on Monday that Josh Hannay will take over as coach in 2026 and Des Hasler won't return. But they also confirmed rumours of Sattler's return to the club, and it could actually pave the way for Titans forward David Fifita to move to South Sydney this off-season. As well as playing 118 games for the Panthers and helping them win the 2003 Premiership. Sattler also played 54 games for the Gold Coast and debuted for the club when they were known as the Seagulls in 92. In 2006, he was appointed as the Titans' inaugural football manager and held the role until 2008. So at the end of the day, they're going back to a lot of their roots. And Steve Mitchell, the Titans CEO, said, as a player, Scott was known for his incredible work rate, effort, and never-say-die attitude. These are the traits we want to see from our players, and who better to instill this than someone who lived and breathed this during his own career. Scott has a strong connection to the Titans, which I agree with. We see him talking about the Titans quite a lot on SEN. Having been involved in the development of the inaugural roster back in 2007, and has showed that he knows how to put together a winning squad. He's a Gold Coaster through and through. He grew up here, played junior footy here, made his first grade debut here, and continues to call our region home. Scott is passionate about the coast and wants success for this club. Post-football, Scott has been successful in both business and media, and he's got a great understanding of not just the needs of football program, but the business more broadly. So I agree with that. I agree with that from Steve Mitchell. I agree with what he's saying there because Scott Sattler does care about the Gold Coast Titans. And I think that's the main thing because the Gold Coast Titans are a very easy club to not give a shit about. They are a very easy club for the NRL community just to cast aside and say, whatever, we don't care because they've never been successful. And they're not wrong to think that. As a person from the Gold Coast myself, regardless of whether I'm critical or not, the reason why I can be critical is because I want to see the best for our fans. I want to see the best for my community, and I will always be a Titans fan. I may not like the Titans right now, but I love them. All right, that's just how relationships work. You might not like them all the time, but you absolutely adore and love them. And there's no one who can ever tell me that I'm not extremely passionate for the success of this club, right? And I just want to see people who come in and care about this club. That's what I want to see. And I'm sure that's what all the fans want to see. They just want to see people give a shit about the Gold Coast as a rugby league team. Because as I just saw before, they were talking about how the Titans are currently losing the code war to the Suns. Now, I'm going to disagree with this, but I'm also going to agree in part to this. The Suns are doing well for the first time in their history. They're not even guaranteed for the top 8 yet, but they should beat Essendon, right? They're going to probably make the top 8 for the first time in their history this year. This is after like 15 years being in the competition, whilst the Titans are going to probably come last. past, but maybe this might give them a boost to win one of those final 2 games, especially against a Dolphins team that's conceded 160 points in the last 3 weeks. Maybe this gives them a boost. Maybe it gives them a boost to get a win. The players hopefully now see the direction. They're excited to play for Josh Hannay and whatnot. So that's what I am really excited about these last 2 games for the potential of that, right? And especially now that Tigers aren't playing for anything in round 27, maybe so. But anyway, the point is that they're making changes. And I just want to see people who give a shit. And we haven't necessarily seen that a great deal. There are players, there are people that you can look at and directly say they absolutely care about this club, but there are also ones that do not look like they have that kind of same tenacity for the team. So I do really like the signing there of Scott Sattler. But with that being said, there is still a lot of problems, Socceroos. But this is, right now, this is showing that they're trying to change it. They are trying to change it. Brenton says, is Josh Hannay confirmed? Yeah, well, everyone's talking about it. Yeah, Josh Hannay is... Josh Hannay... I don't know if it's actually been 100% confirmed, but NRL did post about it. So, yeah, I'm pretty certain he has. I'm pretty certain he has, to be fair. I'm pretty certain. It's literally massive, and the NRL has... Yeah, till 2028. Yeah, he's signed till 2028. Sundo says, please beat the Dolphins. Well, this is actually the best case scenario for you, Sundo, as a Roosters fan, because this might give the... I don't know if Des Hasler was still... I know Des is still the coach for the final 2 games, but they're also playing for Kieran Foran's last couple of games, Des Hasler's last couple of games. But realistically, it is about just showing out as a player to show Josh Hannay you deserve to be there and want to be there. You have to want to be there. I know you swore there. You have to want to be here. Because, yes, we are not the Panthers. We are not the Roosters. We are not the Storm. These teams that have this success, we are not them. Just yet. Hopefully one day. But just yet, we are not them. And we understand that. But we also need the players. We need the players to buy in to wanting to be a part of history. The first time a Gold Coast professional organisation does win a premiership in any sporting code ever, right? Don't care about the VFL, right? At the end of the day, the Gold Coast has never won a major premiership in any sport. And there's been multiple different sporting teams in rugby league, in basketball. You know, we've also had A-League, and a lot of these teams don't exist anymore, right? So just want to be there, want to be here for it. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be you winning a premiership every couple of years like the Melbourne Storm or the Panthers or the Roosters and whatnot. The Panthers weren't that at one stage. The Panthers are that now, and that's why I say not yet. People are going to laugh at that from other fan bases, and I get it. You can laugh all you like. But the Panthers weren't this before. They have developed into this. So it's about developing into this. And that's why I keep saying to Tigers fans, you're not making the 8 this year. And I said this all year. You're not making the 8 this year. But be happy with the development out of the bottom wooden spoon club that you have been for so long. It's about developing out of it, right? You don't need to think that you're here when you're actually here. If you think that you're here when you're actually here, well, there's actually a problem. And I feel like that's a big problem with the Titans over the last 5 or so years, is that they've thought that they're here, and they're actually here, but they've thought they're here. They think that they want to be there. They think that they're here, but they're actually all the way down here. And I think you need to find that middle ground, man, of wanting and demanding that success and that progress, but also being realistic about where we're still currently at. All right, and that's my thoughts. Camp Bro says it's a start. Sattler is a huge pickup for the club, though. Des currently has a 28.3 win percentage, worse than Garth Brennan. Correct, but also, let me make a note of something here. I was talking to, this was a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to say who it is, but give me 1 second here. I've got the stats on Des Hasler as a coach in general, which does very much lean towards the Titans being a problem rather than Des being the problem. Just give me 1 second. I've got to scroll back a bit. Oh, where is it? Oh, here we go. All right, so at Manly from 2004 to 2011, he had 205 games as coach with 122 wins, 84 losses, and a 59% win percentage, right? And then you've got his tenure from the Bulldogs at 2012 to 2017, which was 155 games, 88 wins, 67 losses for a 57% win percentage, right? So that's very good, both those times. And then you got 2019 to 2022 for Manly, where it was 48 wins and 49 losses through 97 games. So 49%. He's just gone under the 50%, which is disappointing. He probably would have kept above 50%, provided that situation with Manly didn't happen. But at the end of the day, he was at 49%, so that is a little bit of a drop-off. But then when you get to the Titans, in 2024 until now. This isn't included of maybe the last 4 games or so. I think this conversation had about 4 weeks ago. So actually, I'll go get it on here. If I just go on to Google and get Des Hasler, it'll get the live. It'll give us the live update of his percentage. So yeah, he 2024 to 2025, he had 46 games for 13 wins and 33 losses, which is a 28% win record. So he's gone from 59% to 57% to 49% to a major drop off of 28%. Even at Manly, he was still at the 50% mark. So it does show there is a significant gap there. Even in his worst years with Manly from 2019 to 2022, which was surrounded by controversy, he was still only 10% worse off than his best years at Manly in 2004 to 2011, and only 8% off some really good years as well at the Bulldogs from 2012 to 2017. And then you drop all the way down to 28%. So it's like Manly, they've got history. Bulldogs, they've got history. Then the Titans, who don't have history, he's gone all the way down to 28%. He's not even at the 40%, which is still 9% lower than his lowest. He's not even at the 30%, which is 19% lower than his lowest. He's actually at 28%, which is 21% lower than his lowest tenure at Manly from 2019 to 2022. So it's like you could make the argument right there that this wasn't Des. You can 100% make the argument it wasn't Des. And I do remember at the start of Des's tenure, I do remember Steve Mitchell and the club coming out and saying that we had a premiership winning roster there. Des wasn't to come in and make changes. He wasn't to come in and make the changes that he necessarily wanted to, because they thought they had the team. They just needed the experienced coach of Des after Justin Holbrook to go and get it. Well, Justin Holbrook's laughing right now. Justin Holbrook's laughing. And and I love Justin as a bloke. He's an awesome dude, really kind-hearted man. Like I had a lot to deal with him, and he was an awesome dude. But Justin Holbrook was also not getting as much out of this team as we would have liked. He had a 37% win record, which is actually 8% more than this, right? 8-9% more than this. But Holbrook was a lovely dude, but he also wasn't necessarily the right fit. It did seem like we could have gone on a little bit of run. We were just outside the 8 when he did get fired, just before that Broncos game, or was it just after the Broncos game? I can't remember. But anyway, long story short, Justin Holbrook wasn't necessarily the guy either. And that's why it's frustrating, because like even when Justin Holbrook was there, you had all the fans coming out and saying, we'll sack Justin Holbrook, he's the problem. And then when he got sacked, a lot of fans came out and said, well, no, he wasn't the problem. Why did we get rid of Holbrook? You know, what's the point of this? And they're kind of laughing now because they were kind of right in a lot of ways. But it was a big switch in the mindset of Titans fans when that did happen, where they were very happy for like a very brief moment that Holbrook had been fired. And then it was a big switch. I don't know what happened. And now we still get people saying, get Justin Holbrook back. And it just isn't the case. It isn't the case. And he wouldn't come back anyway. You know, he's done his stuff with Papua New Guinea, and he's doing his assistant coaching at the Roosters and whatnot. So he's firing up as we are at the moment. Sean James says, g'day, mate. I had to listen in to hear your thoughts about your club. Yeah, look, it's a hard time, mate. But it's always a hard time. But at the end of the day, we still support. That's what we do. Micah Dizzy says, I like the signing, a Sattler bonus, LaFranchi recruitment, all good signs. I understand, though, hard to get excited, but it's in the right direction. It's a direction. I wait to see that it's in the right direction, but it is a direction. We don't have a direction. So to see a direction is a positive. That's what I say. It's about seeing a direction. Whether it's the right or the wrong direction, we don't know. I don't think it can be the wrong direction. Could it be sideways? Sure. But I would lean towards it being the right direction. You just need to see it. You need to see the processes in place. This is the very, very early stages, and this next 6 months is going to be a crazy time. I said this 3-4 weeks ago. The next 6 months is what's going to tell us about the Titans. The next 6 months across the off-season. It's not about how we finish off this year. At the end of the day, if we get the wooden spoon, we deserved the wooden spoon this year. If we don't get the wooden spoon, well, guess what? The Knights deserved the wooden spoon this year, because we've both been just as bad as each other. And if Knights fans go back against that, well, the Titans beat you twice this year. So both those teams deserve the spoon. Only one will get it, but whoever gets it does deserve it. It's really that simple, in my opinion. It really is that simple. So yeah, it's a direction. That's what we need to see. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, is yet to be seen, but it's at least a direction. Matthew McGregor, member for 27 months. Congratulations on the baby, by the way, brother. Says, can you see you back at games? Yeah, we'll see, mate. I'm still in Vietnam, and still a lot that needs to be done for that department, but you know me, I love this club, mate. Brenton says, I heard that Hannay had a good relationship with Tino and AJ. Well, again, Tino and AJ are part of the Queensland team, which he's a part of, right? He's had a big relationship with them, and plus, obviously, I'm assuming Moiki Fodawaker and Bowie Firma and the likes, right? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what player, because the team does need to be shuffled up. We can't keep this team. It's just as simple as that. Like, I love a lot of these boys as blokes, but at the end of the day, the team does need to be changed. They are in last place for a reason, and yeah, they may not have been playing for Des, but they should have still been damn well playing for themselves. They should have damn well been playing for the fans, right? So if they say that, well, they weren't really playing for Des, well, at the end of the day, your job is your job is your job. You should be just playing your damn well hardest and also playing for yourself, for your family, for your fans. And that's why I keep saying, I want people who want to be here, give a shit about the Gold Coast Titans. It really isn't that hard to comprehend. And that's why I said with Scott Sattler, it's good to see him coming in. It's hard to make people give a shit about this club if they're not from the local area because of the lack of success. But I don't care. If you're going to come here, give a shit. Because you know what you're getting yourself into. There's no debate about what you're getting yourself into on the Gold Coast. There is no debate. You know what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be hard. You are going to be laughed at. It is going to be spoken about in embarrassing history. You're going to be considered the easy beats. We'll take solace in that. Come together as a team with that. Come together as a community with that. And realize that we are resilient. We're not relentless yet. We want to be relentless, but we're not relentless yet. We are resilient. Because the resilient thing is a negative on the organisation, not the fans. It is a negative on them, not the fans. And relentless is positive for all, but it takes away accountability, in my opinion. So that's what I say. I just want people who give a shit. Database of Super League will have Des. Yeah, well, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know what Des does from here. I don't know. I don't think Manly go back to him for a third time. I don't think they would do that, especially with his relationship with the Pens and whatnot. I don't know where Des goes from here. Who's going to have the balls? Some team might have the balls. Maybe you see a Cowboys have the balls because they're looking to get rid of Todd Payton. Maybe you see a Newcastle Knights, but yes, Super League is a shout, but also how much does he still have passion for the rest of his career? You know, how much can he pick himself up out of the dumps here at the Gold Coast to get himself going again? And if he did that and he was successful, well, then there is the proof in the pudding that it wasn't Des and that it was the Gold Coast. So it'll be interesting to see if he does get another gig. It'll be interesting to see if he goes into the NRL or he does go to the Super League and where that goes from there. Jesse Hampson says, don't trust a Tiger supporter. They legit said they would rush the field when Twal scored his first try and they didn't rush the field. Yeah, valid. That is valid. Yuri says, no, wouldn't spend for the Titans. Well, I hope so, but we just need to win one of those last two games and then hope the Knights lose both their games. I do think the Knights lose to both the Sharks and also the Eels, but the Eels you never know with. With the Titans, they play the Dolphins, have given up 160 points in the last 3 weeks, but they also need a win, the Dolphins. They need a win to stay a chance at the top 8, especially if the Roosters beat the Storm, which I doubt. But the Dolphins is a chance with how we can score when we want to. Plus also, there is that positive now with this new direction. But then also, we play the Tigers, where it's like the Tigers, it was only a 1-point loss down there at Leichhardt we played them. This will be up at the Seabus Super Stadium. The Tigers now not playing for anything. So there is a positive there. There is a chance. There is a chance, and I'm going to have that hope and I'm going to have that belief. But, you know, we'll just have to wait to see. Kalua says, was really hoping we'd have been able to see the Walker brothers have a shot. I hoped that their nuance would have given the boys the spark they needed, not to mention their innovative style, which would have been exciting to watch. Yet my question to you, though, is why have they not been given a job since? Walker brothers. Here we go. Walker brothers Rugby League. I want to go to Chris Walker. No, not Chris Walker. I got to go to... Here we go, over here. It doesn't even have their coaching information here. It doesn't have their coaching information. Coaching. Hold on. I want to see if I can find... Walker Brothers, Ben and Shane are well known for their innovative and attacking style of rugby league, most notably during their successful tenure at the Ipswich Jets from 2015 to 2019. Well, why have they not had a gig since 2019? Why have they not had a gig since 2019 is my question. Unless they have, that I can't think of. But why have they not been given a gig? And why would... And whilst I understand what you're talking about, the Titans aren't the team to take that huge risk. It is way too big of a risk, dude. It is way too big of a risk. Because that could really kill off anything with this club. Because that would be 3 to 5 years. And if it didn't work, well, you know, it doesn't really hurt them. But if it did work, it'd be great. But if it didn't work, it would hurt the club even further than what it already is. And I just think that Josh Hanna's got a little bit more experience in this department and is a part of the game still. So that's why I'm definitely more excited about Josh Hanna than the Walker brothers. But, at the end of the day, your opinion is fine. People are entitled to their opinions. I'm not in the same wavelength, but who's to say anything's wrong right now? Oliver says, as a Dragons fan, I don't know if this was worth it. Why? Why do you feel like this wasn't worth it? Why? Because the Titans had a 28% win record with Des, and they needed to show direction. Michael says, will Des sue the Gold Coast Titans like he did to Manly after he got sacked? Well, I don't think so, Michael. I wouldn't expect so. I also think that Des probably does. Well, this is the end of his contract, no? Des is to the end of this year anyway, wasn't he? Or was it end of next year? Des Hasler contract. Hasler joined the club in 2024 on a 3-year contract, so 2024, 2025, 2026. So he does have next year, after the 2026 season. He probably does get paid out for it. I don't think they want to go through any kind of legalities and whatnot. He'll just get paid out for it, and that'll be that. I don't think he'll want too much to do with the Gold Coast overall, but I feel for Foz. I feel for the old Foz, because obviously he's got a great relationship with Des. So, and also Brian Kelly would have a great relationship with Des. We'll see how that pans out. Camp Brody says it's wishful thinking, but one would hope that the Hannay-Queensland connection would help out in terms of bringing in talent. Shibasaki could be a target should the reports about Sammy and Kelly end up true. You're right, but the only issue with Shibasaki is, one, he didn't show it beforehand, then it showed it at the Broncos, and then was incredible for Queensland. How old is he also now? But obviously, this is going to be a huge talking point. Get how much? Because his contract, he's asking for quite a lot. He's 26 years old, so he's got plenty left in him. Plenty left in him. But he's reportedly on just $85,000 this year at the Broncos as a developmental contract, which will rise to a still modest $140,000 next season. There's no way. But also, the Broncos don't have the salary cap space to upgrade him to what he does want, which will be quite high with his Origin debut, winning Origin, and being a key player in that Origin series win. So, look, Shibasaki is an interesting player. He is a very interesting player. But it's going to be really intriguing how Josh Hannay does make placements to this team, because he should be given the rights to make his changes, because this team is not a premiership winning team right now. It's not. Titans fans keep saying that we have this premiership winning team. Well, our halfback was originally a fullback and shows some signs, but also shows some negative signs. But at least JC does want to be here. But our halfback does show signs, but not always. The 9 is a dilemma. The 6 is definitely a dilemma with Kieran Foran now retiring. You've got Tom Weaver there, but you've also got AJ Brimson who's been there for a part. You've got Zane Harrison waiting, but he'll come into the 7 if anything, because he's not at 6. The 5, 8 and the halfback are still question marks overall in regards to the Titans. And the fullback, you've still got on the books AJ Brimson and Keanu Kenny till 2030. Both those players are signed through until 2030, right? So Jaden Campbell's kind of out of that equation now because they've developed him into that halfback role. But AJ and Keanu are still in the battle. We are still there. And I think that it's going to be really interesting what Josh Hannay does, because he does have this good relationship with AJ. So AJ, I know, wants to play fullback. I know he wants to play fullback. But Keanu Kenny is a New Zealand international, and we saw great signs from him on the weekend when he came on, despite the loss against the Warriors. Keanu Kenny, I believe, is the fullback here for the Titans. I believe that Keanu Kenny should be the fullback for the Titans, but Josh Hannay does have this great relationship with AJ. It was kind of like, whilst Keanu's been injured, we were just waiting for Keanu to come back into that fullback position, but yeah, it's going to be odd, and it's unnerving waiting for what he decides there. Obviously, that 2 through 5 will be changed up. It'll be really interesting with Loffy, because Alofiana Campera, has he been in the Queensland extended team? I'm not too sure. I don't think so. But either way, Loffy wouldn't have stayed here with Des. I think he would stay here without Des. It just comes down to if Josh Hannay does like him, and he does score a bunch of tries, and I want him to stay here overall. I definitely want Loffy to stay here. I think that he could actually break Alex Johnson's record when he eventually breaks it. I really do. Look at the amount of tries he scored, and Lofiana Campera is, 21, 22 years old? Campera, age. He is 23 years old, right? So he's still got 10 to 12 years left in him. He's got electric speed, and he's a great attacker. Yeah, sure, his defense needs work, but every winger's defense needs work. Unless your name is Brian To'o, and that's pretty much it. Every winger's defense needs work. Even Daniel Tupou is very good defensively, but overall, wingers are always going to get really slapped down for their defense. But it's ultimately actually not really. People always, and we spoke about this a lot with Warrior streams recently, with the criticism of Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, is ultimately the winger's job is heavily reliant defensively on the centre and also the back rower and how they push in. So a lot of the time people will just blame the winger for being off of their wing, and it's just like, well, it's not actually the winger's fault necessarily, because if the centre and the back rower and the team has gone inside, well, that means there's going to be a massive gap in between for the opposition centre to just run in an easy try. So if you don't come in with your team, they're going to score an easy try in here, right? Because you're going to stay out here and they're just going to have a massive gap here. But if you do come in, well, then they're just going to pass it out to the wing, and the wing is then going to score, and then the wing is going to be blamed defensively for the inside men coming in and jamming in. And usually it is the centre jamming in. So ultimately, I do feel like the winger position is really harshly graded from people watching the game, because they don't necessarily recognise it's not always the winger's fault. And a lot of the time, it actually isn't the winger's fault. But I do also understand in regards to the high ball, and I do understand in regards to his post-contact when he's running the ball back into the line. But, we'll see what Josh Hannay does decide there. Kilua says, I don't trust Hannay. I haven't seen enough substance out of what he has achieved single-handedly. Okay, sure. That's an opinion, but I think that we, as a club, need to back into this decision. If you're a Titans fan, Kalua, I'm pretty certain. Are you a? Yeah, you said weed. So you're a Titans fan. I think we have to back into this decision. At the end of the day, this is the decision that they've made. We have to trust this direction. As much as I disagree with a lot of what this organisation does, and I do disagree with a lot of it. If you watch my streams, I disagree with a lot of how they operate, with how the fan base is, and the disenchantment and the lack of touch with the fan base, right? That could have been a big Des thing as well, because Des isn't exactly a huge community kind of person in a lot of ways. But the point of the matter is that I do disagree with a lot of them. But at the end of the day, this decision has been made. This is our club. They have decided to go with Josh Hannay. Yes, you should be reserved because we've been here before, but also just back in the club is what I would say. Kalua says, I don't think you'd find many of us that disagree with you. Lee says, the Dolphins will beat the Titans. Thanks for the completely unnecessary comment. Olivia says, hopefully this is the floodgates being opened and some changes begin to get made within the whole organisation. Absolutely. Well, again, this isn't just the Des Hasler, Josh Hannay. This is what the NRL world will see. The NRL community as a whole will see Des Hasler sack Josh Hannay in, but they're not going to... There'll be people who acknowledge the Scott Sattler signing and whatnot, but that will fly a little bit under the radar comparatively to this. So it's like, this is two big changes. This is two really big changes rather than just the one. And that's a real positive, because it is meaning that they're trying to go with the bulk changes. We have seen Daryl Kelly and Joe Kelly, the Kellys, not be a part of the ownership team anymore. The Frizzels, Rebecca and Brett, have taken over completely. So there is that first big change. Whether that works out or not, we'll wait to see. But at the end of the day, the Frizzels are the owners. And then now the next big change is that Des Hasler is sacked and Josh Hannay to come in 2026. And then the next big change is that Scott Sattler is now the director of football. So there's three big changes already that we've seen in the last month or so. I think that was about a month and a half ago with Beck and Brett. Yeah, I think it was about a month and a half ago when the Kellys left, who are still involved in the club, just not at the ownership level. But the thing is that they are making changes, and this next 6 months is going to be where we really do see a lot more as well. Nikhil says, I'm late. Quick recap. You can go back and watch the stream afterwards, man. We've got this live stream will be available for anyone to watch at any time, especially in a couple of years' time, where I get caught him up for whatever I've probably said. Olivia says, Des has been sacked. Josh Hannay take over next year. Yeah, that is a good recap, Olivia. That is a great recap. Jesse Hampton says, I like how you aren't just shitting on Des and are crediting his coaching career. Respect. Well, it's because, look, I don't know Des, right? And we're not mates. We don't go out having drinks at the Burley Pav. And we didn't go out all the time. We're not like close friends, but I did know Des. I did see him after every single game. We'd have a brief little chat, and he does care, right? And you could see in that press conference on the weekend with the Travis Main situation, you could see he does care. It hasn't worked out, but he does care, and I do think that you do still need to respect the fact that he did try. Whether you agree with what he did or not doesn't mean that he didn't actually try for the best here, because there's no way he would have wanted to ruin his reputation by coming to the Titans and then just doing jack shit and just getting paid. Yes, the common consensus from casual fans are going to be like, well, I don't agree with this, so that means he doesn't care, and it's just not the case. These people do care. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and I don't know, looking back at it now, at the time I was excited. Looking back in hindsight now, I don't think Des was the right fit in regards to the way that he does operate as a whole club level, with the restriction of the community, and not really kind of involving himself with the media, and there's a lot of things that I look back at now and go, okay, maybe it was the wrong signing, but at the time it did look good, and that is all just going to be in hindsight. So yeah, no, I'm not here to shit on Des, mate. I'm not here to shit on him. At the end of the day, he did what he could. It didn't work out. I don't know if he was given full reign or not. I don't think he was given full reign, but the point of the matter is that I did the same thing with Justin, because I don't think Justin deserved to be shit on either. It just didn't work out. The defense was too leaky. The comebacks were ridiculous. The comebacks haven't been as big of a thing recently, but there is still comebacks that we have seen against this club. Like, what was it? Is there a game this year? Yeah, there would be a game this year. There's been a couple of games. I think it was 18-0 against the Raiders, and we lost that game 30-18 or something. And there would have been another one. But the point is that under Justin, there was just too many. So yeah, I'm not here to shit on the person. I will criticise the tenure, but I'm not here to shit on him. And I also do think that if you do look at the statistics, again, Des Hasler had a really good percentage at Manly first time, a really good percentage at Bulldogs second time, a pretty good percentage in Manly third time, and an awful percentage at the Titans. And that's with two tenures at Manly who have a long successful history, and that's with a tenure at the Bulldogs who have a long successful history. Maybe not long successful history, but a successful history, right? And yeah, we'll go long successful history because they're still around for a long time. And Titans, who have only been in since 2007 with no successful history. So it does show a trajectory and a common theme there. But we'll wait to see what Josh Hannay does to see if the improvement can be made. Hunt says they better sack more than Hasler to fix the Titans. Yeah, no, there's no misconceptions here, man. We definitely believe that there is more issues at the Titans than just Des Hasler. I don't even think that was the key reason, but it is a change nonetheless. Socceroo says if we win the last two matches, Des won't have the worst Titans record win rate. It'll be Garth Brennan. Although Des has a much better squad, Justin was sacked before that 18-12 win over Brisbane. Yeah. So Garth Brennan was the worst coach in Titans history. Garth Brennan was the worst coach in Titans history. His signings made absolutely no sense, and I would argue that a couple of Des's have been a little bit interesting, but again, I don't know if he had full reign. Garth Brennan was the worst coach in Titans history, and that is just based off of what we've seen. You know, even if Des didn't win one of these last two games, I still would say Garth Brennan was the worst coach in Titans history. However, I will say that this has been clearly the toughest year as a Gold Coast Titans fan, way worse than 2019 and way worse than 2011. But I think that's just because of the promises that aren't progressing to being delivered. They haven't been progressing, and I think that's the issue, because we didn't have any promises in 2019 and we didn't have any promises in 2011, despite the fact we made the preliminary final in 2010. The very next year, obviously, we ended up getting the wooden spoon, losing to Parramatta in the last round of the season. If they had lost, they got it. We won, we lost, we got it, and we obviously lost that game, I think like 26-10 or something ridiculous. Jared Hayne killed us. But yeah, anyway, the history has been really frustrating, and this year has been the most frustrating, but again, we just need that direction. Josh Clark says, we'll be back in the Legion next year. Look, not necessarily, mate. You know, I'm just travelling. I'm just enjoying myself at the moment. I can still, passionately support my team here. I still need to see quite a few changes, and in regards to the way this organisation deals with its fan base and how it operates overall, by taking accountability upon themselves for lacking membership numbers and taking accountability on themselves for a lot of different factors, without trying to pass the blame to literally every Tom, Dick and Harry, especially in regards to, the fans who go to every single game at the Seabus Super Stadium and whatnot. There's a whole lot of things I need to see change there, and I'm really enjoying myself. I've been in, Las Vegas and Hawaii and Hong Kong and Samoa and Fiji and Thailand and India, and now I'm in Vietnam. So, I'm just enjoying myself. But I don't need to be validated by going to every single game to know I'm a supporter. I used to feel like I needed to be validated. Now there's no validation needed. I know I'm a Titans supporter. I know I'm passionate for my team. I know that you guys can see that. If someone can't see that, it's just because they've got a negative bias against who they feel like I am. I know who I am, and I know what I am. I know how passionate I am for this club and for this community, and that's why it's really easy for me to explore the world, experience the world, because you've got to remember as well, for 14 years of my life, I dedicated everything to going to games, whether I was living in Melbourne, or whether I was in Chicago, or I was on the Gold Coast or Sydney. I dedicated my life to just going to all the games, whether they be at home or whether they be away. And that was a long time, but I also do want to see the world, and I'm enjoying Ho Chi Minh right now, and I'm enjoying what else there is to come. I'm going to be in Cambodia probably next week, because one of you guys, one of the subscribers, actually let me know to probably go there, because I need to renew my visa here in Vietnam. So I'm going to probably head to Cambodia next week and then come back to Vietnam afterwards. So yeah, I'm just enjoying, mate. But at some point I'll be back. I don't know when, but at some point I'll be back. But it's just not about that validation anymore. Rysen says, like LaFranchi as well, seems to care quite a bit. Always see him on the Titans Facebook when they take photos of training or Old Boys Day. Are we talking about Anthony LaFranchi? Have I missed something here with Anthony LaFranchi? Anthony LaFranchi's been a part of this club for the entire time. Is this what we're talking about? Matthew Dixon says, did you hear about David Fafita? In what way? Matthew says, Des in Newcastle. It's a shout. It is definitely a shout. Brenton says, not sure if Des would fit Nui. Well, you're going to have that thought process based on what you've seen here at the Titans. So it's going to be very difficult for you to see kind of what he could do at Newcastle. I guarantee you when he left Manly, you could have probably seen him working in Newcastle. But now it's going to be very difficult for you to adjust that mindset to say that Des would fit there. So it's going to be a hard pill to swallow for whoever does get him next, because I think that would actually be perfect in a lot of ways, because if Newcastle or Cowboys or whatnot signed him, the fans would hate it at first, I would say, and then he doesn't have the high expectations like he had coming into the Titans, and it's more about kind of building them out, and it's not about going further backwards rather than about going forwards. So I do think that it's a good thing in a lot of ways, because I don't think Des is a bad coach. I really don't. He's won multiple premierships. He's been in multiple grand finals with two different teams. I don't think he's a bad coach. He's still found incredible fullbacks like Tom Trbojevic, Brett Stewart, all these kind of guys, right? So and Keanu Kinney coming through. So look, overall, I think Des is still a good coach. It's just really difficult with the way we've seen over these last couple of years with the Titans. Jobby says, who takes 8th spot? Not the video for that, man. We'll obviously talk plenty about that in regards to the streams on the weekend. Cambro says, one thing that really interests me is who Hannah will have with his coaching staff. Do we keep who we have, or are we getting new blood? I think he'll probably get new ones in, but also he's not at an NRL club previously as a head coach, so it's not like he would have his own coaching staff immediately, but he would have who he wants in mind. But I do think we're probably going to be seeing... I personally think we probably will see the end of Brett White. Do I think that Brett White was ultimately the problem? Maybe potentially could have been, and this is not me shitting on him at all. I do think, again, the Titans are just the Titans over the last however long. But Brett White is the defensive coach for New South Wales. I think that we clearly have seen a lacking defense for a long time now. The Titans are a bit of a facade on attack. They will score bulk points in some games and then no points in other games, which will boost their attacking numbers, but not on a consistent level. Like, for example, last year, everyone kept telling me on streams, the Titans can clearly attack. They're a very good attacking team, just no defensive. And it's like, whilst that's correct, they can score 66 against the Warriors, or they can score 46 against the Broncos, or 38 against the Broncos. They can score these really big wins from time to time. They are in between like 0-point games or 6-point games or 10-point games. That's not a real consistent theme, and they were still fourth last for attack and also defense in 2024, and I'm pretty certain they were very similar in 2023 and 2022, and even I think in 2021, similar, but a little bit above. So the attack is a little bit of a facade, but they can put points on at times when they want to. And that's why I do give a little bit of hope to us against the Dolphins this week. Despite the fact the Dolphins need to win to make the 8, the Dolphins have given up 160 points in 3 weeks. So with this Titans team, maybe with its new direction, maybe there's a chance there. Rysan says, one of the Walker brothers hasn't even coached in years. Exactly. Caljo Music getting around it. Canberra says, also, did anyone completely forget Curtis Moran is coming to the squad next year? Yeah, no, he is coming. He is coming to the team. We'll see how that one pans out, obviously, now that Des isn't the one there. Lee Shepherd says, screw Des, totally shit on him, he's a shit coach. No, I'm not going to do that, mate. I'm not going to do that. Kalua says, I'm a gambler. The Walker brothers are my black. Yeah, okay, well then if you're a gambler, then there you go. I would go black too. But no, not for me. Not for me. But again, your opinion's not incorrect. It's your opinion. But I personally would skirt away from it, yeah. Matthew McGregor says they had the top 8 options. They had the top 8 options? What do you mean, Matty? Kalua says Brian Kelly has been told to go too. It makes sense. BK is very rocks and diamonds. He can be absolutely diamonds at points, whether it be on attack or on defense. But unfortunately, those diamonds are far and few between. And because and I want to really emphasize this, Brian Kelly does care about this club. He does love this club. He has wanted this club to succeed. There is no denying it. You get people out there who have no idea, who say because he's playing badly, that means that he doesn't care. And it's just simply not true. I've known Brian for a long time now. Again, not best mates. I'm not going out there and drinking with him every night or having coffee or going for dinner. But from my experiences with Brian and my conversation with Brian and people around me that also talk to him and speak to him and know him and whatnot, Brian Kelly absolutely has loved this Gold Coast Titans team and he has wanted the success there. And you can see that from the fact that his problems actually come from the fact he tries too hard. And that's where his mistakes come from. The flick passes and the throwing, trying to get the offload, the last minute offload, or trying to make that big play, jamming in as a centre, that comes from his care factor on a too big level where he wants to make that big play for the team. It just doesn't pan out. So yes, it is time Brian Kelly does move on. I think that the risk hasn't necessarily paid off, and yes, he was very good previously. It's just there's far and few between the risks there. I would love to see him do well at another club. I don't know where that would be, but the point is that nobody can tell me that Brian Kelly did not care and does not care. It's just about the fact that he cared sometimes too much, where he tried too much. And it's not about caring too much, it's about trying too much because he cares so much, right? I hope I make that understandable. Cal J says, me personally, I might have gone with the Walkers to give us some spice, but bring on Hane. Sure, but I personally wouldn't be doing that. Jack Smith says, what's your thoughts on Walters as coach? Well, I think ask me that question on a stream this week because obviously Ken Walters isn't coming to the Titans and this stream is more so for the Titans and the changes here. Ask me questions about other coaches and whatnot on like Thursday stream or the 2 Friday streams and whatnot. Cal says, Carter Gordon too. Got a question. Is JC supposed to re-sign/sign to a team any week/month now, or does he do that next year? Well, JC can't sign anywhere until November 1st anyway, no? I think it's November 1st this year. He signed in 2026, so regardless, it wouldn't be until November 1st that he could. But I feel like it comes down now to what Josh Hannay feels. Does Josh Hannay believe that Jaden Campbell is a halfback? Or does Josh Hannay fancy Jaden Campbell back in the fullback? Because Josh Hannay could have a completely different mindset. Obviously they should be in touch with the organisation. Josh Hannay being signed here means that the organisation and him should be on the same level right now, mentally. They should understand exactly what they want. They need to come to the same level because I don't know if Des and the internal organisation were necessarily on the same page the entire time with regards to the wants and needs of this club. That's my belief. That's my opinion. That's not a fact. I don't believe it. So they need to be on that same wavelength and same page, but you don't know. Josh Hannay could prefer Keanu Kinney, or he could prefer AJ Brimson, who we've seen in the Queensland team, or he could prefer Jaden Campbell, or he could prefer somebody else. There's no way that any Titans fan's going to buy in on another fullback, though, that's not one of those 3 guys, and I don't think they'd even buy in on Jaden Campbell right now. I think you'd have to buy in on AJ Brimson or Keanu Kinney, and you're going to get a 50-50 split about what people agree and disagree with, because you've got to remember, AJ Brimson is signed until 2030, Keanu Kinney is signed until 2030. These guys are long-term contracts, so they must be here unless you can find a way to get them to another club, and you're probably going to pay some of that contract, to be completely honest with you. Rysan says, since Hannay was a back, I'm keen to see what he does with that and how he gets them to play. He was a back and also played for Queensland 2003 to 2006. Had 2 games played for he had 4 goals in it, and did play for the Cowboys for 150 games, had a couple of games with the Sharks, and then went over to the Celtic Crusaders 07-09. No idea who they are, but I would assume they're Scotland, to be completely honest with you. Oh, no, Ireland? No, I think it is. Anyway, it's over there in the UK. It's over there in the UK. But I'm glad there's a direction that we can look towards. Hannay coached Stark in the Queensland under 18 Origin, I think. Probably doesn't mean much since it was 2016, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Yeah, valid. Yeah, valid. Canberra says, never forget Brennan signing half the Panthers roster. Latu, Rain, Peachy, and Cartwright, club legends. Exactly right. Sunday says, Las Vegas seems like it was ages ago. Yeah, well, it was. It was in March of this year, and it is now... Well, to be fair, it wasn't even that long ago. Yeah, it's August now, so April, May, June, July, August. Only 5 months ago. It's only 5 months ago. It's only 5 months. Rice Zen says, BK is always one of the first to go congratulate the boys when they score tries and seems like a great guy. It's because he is a great guy. It is because he simply is a great guy. And that's why. Cal J Music says, sucks to see anyone leave, but it's what we need to do. So excited to see what Josh brings. I'm so hyped. Absolutely. You know, it is again, fresh new start. We have to back in what they do. We have to back in until proven otherwise. As a fan of a club, the fact is that this decision has been made. The decision is final. We're getting Josh Hannay. Des Hasler has been sacked. There is no point hating on the signing. There is no point hating on the change because there is no reason to hate on the change right now. At the end of the day, people didn't necessarily want Des as the coach. Josh Hannay is bringing in a brand new direction. There is no benefit whatsoever to coming out and saying it is the wrong decision or it is a bad move. It benefits absolutely nothing, and absolutely nothing. Until we see at least a year under Josh Hannay, then you can start to see the criticism if it didn't go to plan. But at the end of the day, right this very second, you have to back in a decision because nothing will change in regards to it not going to play. Jozzy Parr says, who's replacing Des? Josh Hannay. Rice then says, I can't get my hopes up too much. Got really excited when Des signed, so I've just got to wait until I start seeing signings in pre-seasons. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, that's why I said before, you know, I'm a bit reserved in regards to my excitement, but at the end of the day, I'm excited about a direction. Not the direction, a direction. Sanders says 2 long-term contracts for 2 people fighting for the one position seems like a recipe for disaster in my opinion. One of them won't get the game time you paid for. Correct. Absolutely. And I think that it was very difficult though, because AJ Brimson got re-signed until 2030, I think about a week or 2 before Keanu Kenny broke out and became the player that we've all seen him. So it's like AJ is a Gold Coast local. He does love this club. I do think that he really needs to kind of focus a lot more on his roots, is what I'll say, and needs to remember to play for the fans and to be really appreciative for the opportunity that he is able to be given every single week here for this club. But at the end of the day, he was signed and he is a great player in that fullback position. But Keanu Kenny broke out a couple of weeks later, and then we've obviously decided it's him as the future fullback. It's nearly impossible to get rid of one of them right now, unless you put AJ into the centres. But AJ is not going. It obviously, clearly didn't necessarily work out in the centres when we tried that. And the 5'8" position is open because Kieran Foran is retiring after these next 2 games. So then you have to decide: do you keep JC in the 7, and then put AJ Brimson into the 6, or Tom Weaver into the 6, or Zane Harrison into the 6, or do you go out and buy another 6? Right? Do you go out and give a lifeline to somebody else, which Josh Hannay absolutely could do, especially if Dave does go. They've got plenty of cap space there. So that's why we can talk about open cap space with Dave Fafita leaving on his high contract if he does decide that the leaving is going to be happening. Or do they put Zane Harrison to the 7, which I don't think so right now, but I think in the future, yes. But Zane Harrison to the 7 and JC into the 6. Or do you have Tom Weaver as a 7 and they don't believe in JC? I don't know. There's so many different options and places that the club could go with this new signing. Soccer says, what happened to Tino signing for like 10 years? Well, he did sign for 10 years. The contract is for 10 years, but there are player clauses and there are club clauses. There are options throughout. And this is something that is such a misconception across the league. Not having to go at you here, but having to go at this misconception that it's only the Titans who do this. It's only the Titans who give these player clauses to Tino and to Dave. Every club does things like this. Like every club has players in it that will have player clauses and it will have club clauses, and there will be contract breaking potential if they do certain things, right? And the only reason why the Titans get slammed for it so much is because it is Tino and Dave, 2 big high-profile named players. The Eels had it a couple of years ago with Mitchell Moses, I think last year. The Eels had the same thing, Mitchell Moses and Dylan Brown. And Dylan Brown's obviously going to the Newcastle Knights. But overall, every club has this. It's just that it doesn't get spoken about. It doesn't get spoken about like it does with these 2 guys. Because 1, it's the Titans who are an easy slap down in the media. But also 2, it's it's two high-profile players at a club that struggles. So that's why you're seeing most of it that way. That's why you're seeing most of it come towards them. Luke Bailey says, I'm going to be honest about this whole situation. Titans may never lose another game. Thank you, Luke Bailey. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke, for that one. Cal J Music says, I don't know lots about Hannay, though. Do you have any sort of idea at all what type of coach person he is, or not really? I know of him through when he was the coach of the Sharks, very briefly. I also know of his playing days, and I also know of his involvement with the Queensland team in Origin. I don't know him. I haven't met him as a person, and we'll have to kind of just wait and see how he operates. We have to wait and see. You know, it's exciting, but it's unnerving, and it's reserved excitement, but it's also backing in the team. Cam Brody said, I'm still wondering if Carter Gordon is going to get a run even with Josh as coach now. Well, it comes down to if Carter Gordon impresses him. And this is why these next two games are very crucial for the Titans. They're very crucial. And there's more to it now than just playing to avoid the spoon. There is also playing for your new coach, and also for Des Hasler's final two games, and also for Kieran Foran's last two games, and also for the playing roster that is probably going to be split up. There is so much riding on these next two games. And Carter Gordon, yeah, look, he's not going to get a game in these next two games, you would assume. But maybe he plays into the sixth position. You know, I didn't mention him before. Maybe he plays into the sixth position. It's all about impressing. I know Carter Gordon scored a try for I think it was Tweed. I think he plays Tweed, isn't he? Carter Gordon scored on the weekend. So it's just about him impressing. It's about him putting his best foot forward, and potentially he is the guy to answer the question there in the sixth. But then that just brings more questions to AJ and Keanu battle. KJ Music says, Hannay is our coach equals infinite wins, and Jossie Parsons not too familiar with Hannay. Will he be able to draw in some potential players? Well, he's been part of the Queensland team. And, you know, I think that players will look towards a direction. They would never sign for a team that has no direction, which his club has been. This club has had no direction. So now they've got a direction. So players will look to, if Tino does stay, which I believe he will now with a direction, and that he knows the guy coming in. And I think that Tino probably would have had a speaking point in regards to a meeting when they were deciding this, rather than when they just decided to sack Holbrook and bring in Des without telling absolutely anybody. So I think that Tino will stay, and that will provide a platform for other players to see continuity, for other players to see his passion, for other players around the comp to see that we do have a trajectory. We need to move into an upward trajectory, but we do have a trajectory in play. B. Lloyd says, wasn't Hannay an assistant coach for the Maroons? Yes, he was. Rice says, feel like we already would have had Gordon at 17 already if he didn't have the worst luck with the spinal fluid thing. I agree. Yeah, he did have a serious injury that kept him out. Otherwise, he probably would have been in the team. X Factor says, Josh Hannay has never lost a game coaching for the Gold Coast Titans. Well, you're not wrong, are you, X Factor? Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You absolutely aren't wrong. Luke Bailey says, I think we have even bigger changes coming, and hopefully it's a change that will make the community excited and proud. Sure, but what is bigger changes? Like, what bigger changes are you looking for here that would make you as a fan happy? What is, and I ask all Titans fans here who are watching, what is a change that would make you believe in this club again? Besides this Josh Hannay signing, besides the Scott Sattler signing, besides real simple basics, what is something big that this club could do? Because I'm sure they'll watch this. But what is something big this club could do that would make you happy as a fan? Jay says, change that shivered Venga Boys song. Oh, Jay, really? That's the big thing we want to change, the Venga Boys song? Jay, get around it, mate. You love a good dance. Cal J says, yeah, I thought Tina was going to leave, especially after the game last week in the press conference. Felt so negative, but I hope he has a change of heart, even if he had thought to leave. Well, I spoke about Tina at the beginning of the stream, man. So if you missed that part, you definitely want to go back and have a look at it. Rice then says, thank God next year we aren't going to Vegas. We don't need that with a coaching change. No, we're going in 2027. No, we are going in 2027. We've got, I'm pretty certain we'll play the Dolphins, but Titans, Dolphins, and there's 5 teams remaining that haven't played a game yet, and that's the Titans, that's the Dolphins, and not including next year's teams, the Bulldogs, Dragons, Cowboys, and Knights. The Titans, the Dolphins, the Storm, the Eels, and there's one more team. Titans, Dolphins, Storm, Eels, and Tigers? Is that the final 5 teams? They're the final 5 teams that haven't played yet? I think that's the final 5 teams. I could be wrong. Livy says at least they changed the Telstra ad. It just would have been the end of the contract there. Chase is, but am I right? Not my place to say, mate. I'm running at the games. I'll let the people at Silver Super Stadium, the fans there, have their decision on that. But I think my personal belief is that it's very much copying the Brisbane Broncos. You know, it's pretty much the same. So I personally would like it to change because it's too similar to a rival team. What we would consider our biggest rival team. It's pretty much the same. It's just instead of doing this, it's literally just doing this, right? So that's my personal opinion. Luke Bailey says rebuild of the club, get players who actually want success and have passion. Not saying our players have the passion and want success. Not saying our players don't have the passion and don't want success, but I think they don't show it enough. You got to give them a reason to give a shit though too. Like, and I will, as I said before, I want players who just give a shit anyway. You know, who like a guy like Tino, right? But you do also have to give them this direction. The direction is the most important thing. If there's no direction, then what's the point? So it is really about, the culture has not been a good culture nearly ever. Besides when they were a brand new team coming to the competition back in the mid-2000s to late 2000s. That was a great culture, but that was also because it was a brand new venture and there's a lot of excitement around, which is what you've seen with the Dolphins for a couple of years. And next year, again, the Titans finished like 12th and then like 12th and then like 11th in 2008, 2007, 2008, and then in 2009 they finished 3rd, and then 2010 they finished 4th. Well, the Dolphins, they finished in like 12th, and then they finished in like 11th or something last year, and then this year they're probably going to finish out of the 8 again. So it's like there's that excitement that always happens for the first couple of years, and now we'll see what the Dolphins do with it going on. So there it does need to be a lot of change. Jossie Pass has changed the logo again. Maybe it'll help, trust. Thank you, Jossie Pass. Camp Brody says, something makes me believe in the team. Odd as it sounds, bring Presto and give him a proper role with the club. I can't explain it. He just feels like a name that should be a part of this club staff. He does have a heavy involvement with the... Well, he doesn't have a heavy involvement with the club per se, but he is always there. I've seen and spoken to Presto nearly every game last year. He's always there supporting JC and supporting this club. He does have an active involvement in regards to, you know, what this club is and what this club tries to achieve, but he is a very busy man. You know, he has his own businesses. He has his own life. It's very difficult to implement him into our team and build that culture with him there when he does have a whole bunch of things that he's doing overall. So whilst I agree with you, getting old boys a part of the team, I don't know if Presto is available. X-Factor said, I think Josh has a plan coming to the Titans. Well, you'd hope so, because there's been a few teams he could have head coached for. Yeah, I know the Cowboys definitely really wanted him. The Knights would have been a team that were a opportunity. Manly would have been a team who he could have gone to, with Manly not necessarily believing in Anthony Seibold too heavily. Obviously, the Eels went with Jason Riles as their coach. Eels will come out and say that they chose Jason Riles over Josh Hannay because Jason Riles was better, but they're going to say that regardless. That's probably about it. The Tigers are happy with Benj. Warriors are happy with Webster. Obviously, Storm aren't even in play. Roosters aren't in play. Panthers aren't in play. Rabbitohs aren't in play. I don't think the Dolphins are in play at all either. So, yeah, it would have been Cowboys, Knights, and Manly, realistically, the other 3 teams. Nate said, I heard Blocker Roach is looking for a job. I'm timing you out. I'm timing you out for even suggesting the Titans are going to go for Blocker Roach. We'll see in 5 minutes, Nath. We'll see in 5 minutes. Cal J said, I think if we repaint Seabus walls, we will win a premiership. Yeah, you need help. Yeah, you need help, mate. You need help. Jeebert says, Titans, Dolphins, Cowboys, Storm, Eels, and Tigers. No. Cowboys play next year. I was taking out the teams from next year. So Cowboys, Knights, Bulldogs, and Dragons. They're 4 teams that play next year. So it is Titans, Dolphins, Storm, Eels, and Tigers that haven't played yet. So we've still got the contract in 2027 and then 2028. So you're going to see 3 teams double up. So there'll be Titans, Dolphins, Cowboys, Titans, Dolphins, Storm, Eels, and Tigers. 4 of those 5 teams will play in Vegas in 2027, and then whoever misses out will get the 2028 with 3 teams doubling up. So yeah, I'm pretty certain they'll take Titans, Dolphins, but we'll see. Storm, Eels actually could be a good little shout over there. I don't know who they match up with the Tigers there. don't know who they match up. Right Sense is, I think, like a normal job. No one wants to work at a place that isn't successful and it's always being talked about negatively. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, does anyone really think that these boys like seeing and it is partly their problem. It is their problem, but they're coming in knowing the problem and then experiencing the problem, and it's like it's not going to help. It's definitely not going to help with that department. Dasman says board needs to be sacked. Honestly, there is major questions that needs to be asked by the board. Campo says random shout. Does anyone think Greg Bird would be a decent defensive coach? I'd like Greg involved in the club. I don't know about defensive coach, but I definitely like him involved in the club. Josie Parr says, do the Titans have much space in their cap? They will when Dave Fafita probably does end up leaving. X-Factor says Sharks, he was caretaking for before Fitzy came in. Yeah, and he was 8-11. He won 8 games and lost 11 games as the coach there. Dasmate says 2 men's premierships is still on the cards by 2030. I hope you're right. Cal J says, my prediction would be Titans versus Dolphins, Tigers versus Eels, and Storm versus Bears. Oh, that's right, Bears. Yeah, true, actually. Yeah, true. And to be fair, they could. That would be so disastrous to send Papua New Guinea for their first ever game because they are technically meant to be coming in 2028, but I don't think they would do that. I think they're probably going to come in 2029. But if to be fair, yeah, they could have. They could do that. That is a good shout. Titans, Dolphins, Tigers versus Eels, and then the final in 2028 would be Storm Bears, and then 2 other teams, unless they added Papua New Guinea in. But I don't know if they would do that. But that's probably a shout. Ibrahim says, this isn't all Dez's fault, but I do think some of these team selections or choices he makes are bad. I agree. And that's what we've spoken about throughout this stream, mate. That's what we've spoken about. Rice says, don't know if you watched it, but who was the man next to the CEO at the presser? Hold on. We'll go back and have a look. Gold Coast Titans press conference. Steve Mitchell. Here we go. Who is the man next to him, you ask? Alright, so there's that. Okay, well this video doesn't have anyone next to him currently. I can't see who's next to him currently in this video. It's just got Steve there. Presser. No, that's 2024. If someone knows, can you let us know? Because I can't. You can't actually see who the person is. I could see the shoulder of him, but I couldn't actually see who it actually was. Cal J, that's right. X Factor says, "Oh, you think it was Dennis Watt?" Okay, well, probably would have been Dennis Watt. I would assume it would have been Dennis. X Factor says, "All the best for the Titans for the last 2 games. Hopefully, they can get some wins and are well improved in 2026. Keep up the awesome live streams and support. Appreciate you, X Factor." Appreciate you, mate. But look, guys, we've been here for about an hour and 15. I think I've said everything I really needed to do. If anyone has any last little things they want to say, then let me know before we jump off. But yeah, look, overall, you can go back if you've missed out on a part of the stream. You can go back and have a look at our opinions and thoughts regarding Tino, regarding the fullback, regarding Dez and Josh Hannay, regarding Scotty Sattler, and regarding all involvements in regards to kind of how this has gone down. Motoa Campamento says, hello, Brazilian. Get around, ACDC. Get around your motto. Get around your mate. Ryson says, okay, thanks. Press was really distracting because he kept humming in agreement and it got picked up into the mic. That's too funny, man. That's too funny. But yeah, I think that'll do us here for today, guys. Like I said, go back and check out from the start of the stream if you want to hear opinions that you might not have heard already. But I appreciate you as usual. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. We'll be live for every single game this round. I'll just reply to this one. Ibrahim says, this team has so much potential, so much star power, very young, just when it halves. We have a breeding ground on the Gold Coast for great rugby league talent, mate. A breeding ground of rugby league talent on the Gold Coast. This is why New Zealand have moved into Logan to get talent. This is why we've had Keeper, who are now at the Rabbitohs. This is why we've got PBC in Marsden. You know, all these places really develop amazing rugby league players, and that's why we deserve better as a fan base. The fan base deserves better with this club because they do have the talent here on the coast. They really do. They have the talent here on the coast. So back in the direction. Whether the direction is right or wrong in the future, it's not our problem now. We have chosen a direction. That's the main thing, and that's what I'll leave this off. So, like I said, thumbs up, subscribe. I'll see you guys this week for the streams, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya.